Value. We always hear that word. What's the value in this? I want to bring value to that. But what about when you really need an expert to give you the exact value of some of your most precious belongings? Well, that's why I have our very special guest today, Monica Fidel. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes, and I can't wait to dive into this conversation. So my name is Ketty Urbay. I am the owner and founder of Simply M The Movement. These are the spotlight interviews that I just love to bring to our audience because they're amazing people that I get to meet along the journey of life, who just have great skills, but also a very big heart and just want to help others. So let's get right into it.
Thank you. Yes, yes.
So Monica, this is not something that people hear very often. They don't hear about the type of appraisals that you do. We hear property appraisals, right?
Right.
For real estate.
For real estate, yes.
But share what it is that you do precisely.
Well, I do personal property appraisals. Personal property, I specialize in fine art, furniture, antiques, silver, glass, porcelain, and any household contents. I belong to the American Society of Appraisers and the International Society of Appraisers. And it is true that most people think that what I do is real estate appraisals, but it is a different industry. It is a different animal, personal property.
Altogether.
Yes.
And there's many different reasons why someone would need your expertise and your services.
Yes. One reason might be insurance coverage. You, as a homeowner, will have homeowner's policy, but that will not cover your fine art, your antiques, valuable items. So the insurance agent will say, well, get a separate appraisal. That's one reason. Mm-hmm. Another reason, which I do a lot as well, is estates. Somebody passes away, it's either a taxable estate, the IRS requires an appraisal, or even if it's not a taxable estate, it could be for probate, equitable distribution. Another reason is divorces. Two people divorce and they want to, Florida is an equitable distribution state. Mm-hmm. And so the two parties, the judge may say, get an appraisal. I do that. Another reason is donations. When the donation is above $5,000 fair market value, the IRS requires an appraisal. And the last thing, I also do damage claims. Sometimes an insurance company will contact me because there is a damage and they want to know what the value of the item before the damage was worth.
Yeah. Wow, that's impressive.
That's a
lot
of things.
Yeah, that is.
That's a gamut of
things. And you have to
things.
really know what you're doing, clearly,
Yes.
because, I mean, let's just take like fine art, for example.
Yes.
I mean, art is so unique and there's, everything is different and you would have to know so much. So I imagine that you are like an encyclopedia of information.
Well, nobody is an expert on everything.
Right.
Sometimes, when the appraisal is large, I'll build a team. But it is true that there are two elements primarily important in appraisals. One is knowing the object, but second, knowing the market. I always give the example of the highwayman. The highwayman art is, they call it highwaymen because they were primarily from Fort Pierce, Florida, and they would drive in their trucks and they would sell the art, the Ponciana trees, you'll probably see them. Now, where is the market for that? If I find a comparable auction in Ohio, well, that's not the best place. The best place is in Florida.
In Florida.
So that's why you need to know the market and knowing the object. Is this piece of furniture 19th century or is it mid-20th century? You have to know what it is. The appraisal has two parts. One is the on-site inspection, where I look at the items, I measure them, I look at the condition. And then the second part is to do the research and the preparation of report.
Yes.
Yes, so that's how I do it.
Yeah, and you earlier mentioned something that really caught my attention, because many times you mentioned, divorce, and you also mentioned probate, which is when, someone has passed away and now, but we always tend to think about the property, the fixed property, the building,
Yes,
what have
yes.
you. And you're saying there's a lot of other things, objects, possessions, what have you, that need to be evaluated and valued and appraised
Right.
to take into account, right?
Right.
And,
Yes, definitely. What it is the estate whatever the estate owns, both intangible property and intangible property. Everything needs to be appraised. So, for example, maybe the accountant will do the intangible property, the stocks, the bonds, whatever. I deal with tangible.
tangible, like this table.
And within tangible, you have the real estate, and then you have the personal property.
The personal property.
So what I always say is remember that real property is the land and everything attached to the land.
Okay.
Everything else is personal property. Your vehicle, your everything is personal property. Now, what's important in an appraisal is who owns the property. Is it in the estate? Is it the estate of John Smith is the owner of that property? If the property was not owned on the date of death, then it's not included. Whatever was included on the effective date. So the effective date on an estate is the date of death. The effective date of insurance coverage appraisal is the date of the inspection, is when I saw it. In a divorce, it's usually, the effective date is usually the date of filing, the date that the divorce was filed. My contacts are, the people who hire me are, for those appraisals, are the attorneys, the family law attorneys, the estate attorneys. Those are the people that my conversation is with, because the scope of work comes from the client depending on the intended use.
Right.
With insurance coverage, is the individual who contacts me, but usually is the insurance agent who might recommend me as one of the appraisers they might want to contact, and they do.
Sure.
They do, yes.
Sure. So your job is obviously so involved because there's so many moving parts
Yes.
that you have to know. So clearly you didn't start doing this 2 days ago,
No.
2 months ago, or 2 years ago. It's
Yes.
20 years ago.
It's 20 years ago. But I also I build a team sometimes if the appraisal is large enough. For example, say they have African art. Well, I'm not that good in African art, but I have the best African art guy that I can bring. And
Yes.
those people come into my report. Their credentials are in the report. And I do want to say, but what I do not appraise.
Go
I
ahead.
do not appraise jewelry. I can appraise custom jewelry, but not real jewelry. So real is fine jewelry. I do not appraise it. You really need a gemologist. So I am not that.
So you can't appraise all my gems.
No, I cannot appraise. Even when I go to art shows, I skip all the booths of jewelry because I'm not going to buy it and I can't appraise it.
There you go.
Yes. The only thing that I would say, and I always tell my clients, if you're going to have an appraisal, don't sell the item to the appraiser, because you don't want an issue of conflict of interest. You
Sure.
either do the appraisal or you buy it.
Or you
But
buy it. Not,
don't mix the two.
don't mix the two.
Because in my appraisals, I have to state and sign that I do not have an interest in the property. That's major.
Yeah, that's me. That's ethics. That's super important.
Yes, yes.
And again, like this is why I do these interviews, because these are all people that I know take such care in what they do, not just from the person standpoint, but from the legal, from the ethics standpoint. And that's
right.
so important when anyone is dealing with something that's close to you.
Yes.
And definitely valuing your personal property for an important transaction, for an important reason, is a
Yes.
delicate matter.
Yes.
You want to make sure it's done right.
Yes, and also I always say, every report has to be done in a way that can stand up in court. I am also an expert witness, and really you have to defend your appraisal. And what that means in my appraisal, I have a narrative that explains how we arrived at the value. The days are gone when the old appraisers would say, you would ask, how did you arrive at this value? They would say, oh, because I know. That doesn't fly. That doesn't
Just because, yeah.
Just because I'm such an
doesn't-
expert. It doesn't, no. You have to explain how you arrived at a value so that any reasonable person would agree with the value conclusion. That's how it is. Just like in a real property appraisal, you will say, I added $200 for a balcony, which this one doesn't have. You know,
Right.
they do the comparables and they adjust.
And they
Same
explain
thing.
in this, that they
And
substantiate in
they
the narrative.
substantiate.
Yeah.
They substantiate. So what I say with an appraiser, get an appraiser that is an accredited appraiser with an important society of appraisers that is recognized. Because otherwise, anybody can be an appraiser. You know, you can go to a gallery and say, oh, my cousin is an appraiser, but
Right.
based on what?
Based on what?
Based on what?
And what would you say, Monica, is your favorite part of what you do? I'm sure there's many, but which one really stands out for you the most?
Well, what I like is the history of things. I have always been interested in history, so I love the history of things. And it's amazing to me how many people who collect things, they have such passion for the collection. I've just been asked by an elder couple who has a teapot collection. Now, these are not teapots for drinking. They're art teapots,
Wow.
and they want to donate them. So the way the lady speaks of these beautiful teapots that they've been collecting for so many years
Yeah.
is just amazing to me.
That's so neat. So you must
Yes.
meet a lot of different people that have
Yes.
collections of many different
Collections
things.
of many things. Unfortunately, I also have calls of people who want to sell items that are not worth much.
That must be hard, right?
And
to
it's
have
hard.
to sell-
So
yeah.
when that happens, I try to help them in other ways.
Yeah.
I can't charge for something that is worth less than what I charge. So I help them, possibly donating them to Goodwill or whatever. So a lot of what I do is helping people and also educating people as to the different types of value. You have replacement value, fair market value, liquidation value. The different types of value, again, from what I was saying before of the intended use,
Yes.
whether it's insurance coverage or whether it's an estate or donation. So there are different types of value. I think a lot of what we do is educating because a lot of people don't know personal property
Correct,
appraisers.
they don't, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I am blessed that I am able to do this. And I always speak in we. My daughter always says, why do you always say we? Because it's the royal we.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's the royal we, you know. We do this, we do that.
What's going on?
We. She
We.
said, why do you say we? Yeah.
But this is interesting. So why do
Royal we.
you say we? I love that.
Yes, we do. But again, I build teams, and
Yes.
you know, I mean, I'm the head appraiser, but I do build teams when the appraisal is, when it's a large appraisal, and I need experts in different areas.
Sure.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that just says so much to the level of care and
Yes.
attention that you give because
Yes.
because you are clearly an expert. You've been
Yes.
doing this for 20 years, but it's not just the length of time. It's like all the things you know, what you can share just immediately with a few brief questions.
Right.
But sometimes people get in their ego, right? And they don't want to say, well, I don't know. But you clearly said, I'm not an expert in African art. So you care about the transaction, the person, what they need to get done with this appraisal to say,
Right.
but I'm going to bring in the right person
That's
for
right.
this.
That's right.
Because otherwise you would be doing them a disservice.
Exactly. The Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, USPAP,
Yeah.
requires that if you are not knowledgeable enough to do the appraisal, you either have to walk, not accept the assignment,
Right.
or bring in the expert that you can work with, or the expert can work with you to arrive at a conclusion that is reasonable and objective.
Sure.
That is major, and I abide by that.
Yeah, no, I think that's super important. Yesterday, I did an interview. I don't know if you've heard of the book, The Four Agreements.
Oh, yes,
Don Miguel
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Short read, but it has so much
Yeah,
great
yes, it
information.
does, yes.
And one of the agreements, I believe it's the second one, is like don't make assumptions, right? Or
Yes.
maybe it's the third, but either way, it doesn't matter. It's one of the
Yes.
4 agreements. Don't make assumptions. And
Yes.
sometimes we assume that folks that maybe already planned their estate or have a collection of something amazing you would assume that they know the
Yes.
importance of getting it appraised. But I'm sure you found that that's not the case.
Right.
Everyone doesn't know that.
No. Well, again, I work a lot with attorneys who call me because because the appraisal is required. There usually is a requirement in appraisal because sometimes what I do when somebody says, well, I want to know the value of this, I will do research for them. They don't need a formal appraisal.
Right.
So, so then that's what I do. With regard to assumptions, it just occurred to me to say something. In the limiting conditions that we have, we use certain assumptions, and those have to be spelled out. For example, I did a damage loss appraisal a few years ago, water damage. In one of the items, the gentleman said the rug was completely wet. It was smelling. I threw it away. Did I do the appraisal on the rug? I did. I based it on photographs, and I made an extraordinary assumption that it existed at the time of damage. So the assumptions can be done, but those have to be spelled out.
Interesting. So we found another way around it.
Yeah.
You can make assumptions
Yes,
sometimes in
you
appraisals.
Can. Definitely, you can.
I love it.
Yes, because if it doesn't exist and it was damaged. So, for example, the other day, a fellow appraiser called me for insurance coverage. This appraiser was asking me, because several appraisers sometimes call me because I'm so studious. Anyway, whether this appraiser could do an appraisal for insurance coverage of a piece of art from photographs. The answer is yes. Would I do it? No. Because I want to see the condition. I want to see the condition. Can they do it? Yes. It's not a good idea.
Yeah.
It depends on what it is, and it depends on how far you want to go with your assumptions. Because everything is okay until it's not.
Sure.
Right? And so
You're just like dropping gems here. I love that. Everything's okay until it's not.
Until it's not.
Write that down.
Yeah,
okay,
write that down. And it's true. Say, for example, I did an insurance coverage appraisal of a painting. And then I said it was in good condition because I was told it was in good condition. But then there's a loss. And so another appraiser comes in for the insurance company and said, well, wow, this painting had condition issues before. I may get in trouble. I mean, why would you do that unless you really have not studied the theory and methodology of doing appraisals?
Yeah.
Because the first thing they tell you is your report has to be able to stand up in court.
Yes, that's amazing, the level of detail.
Yeah.
It's like you want to make sure
Yeah.
that you dot your I's and you cross your T's.
Yes.
So whether it's an individual watching this video today or an attorney, remember probate, estate
tax,
yeah,
estate tax.
attorneys.
Yes.
What would be the best way for them to find you and connect with you?
Well, I'm an accredited senior appraiser with the American Society of Appraisers. So if you go to the American Society of Appraisers, I'm one of the people there. I'm also a certified appraiser of personal property with the International Society of Appraisers. And you can go online too. I don't know if you type best personal property appraiser, I'll be there. But
Get you up there on that search result. But
Yes.
what's your site that they can go to?
my website is mgfappraisals.com.
I love it.
Yes, and my email name is monica@mgfappraisals.com.
Thank you so much, Monica.
Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure to have you here today.
It's been so wonderful, and I hope I was able to inform and in a nice way of so that people can understand. And please reach out to me for anything. I'll be more than happy. We can help.
Yes, I want to be a part of that we too. I'll be an extension of that team. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you everyone for watching us. Thank you, Monica. It's been a pleasure. And I just want to say, remember to stay positive, stay happy, be blessed, and be a blessing. Bye for now.
Bye.